Hi everybody, here we are again. It's me, Natalie, coming at you. And sixth chakra. When I was in my training with Anodea Judith, what we did in sixth and seventh chakra was she had us choose. And there was a large population in the group that were therapists. And so we were like, we'd like to practice and learn about trauma in the body. And so that's the way that I was trained in the chakra system the first time. But being a sacred center teacher, I've had a lot of chakra training and classes, which is just fantastic. So there's different ways in which I'd like to tap into the sixth chakra. I want you to have everything. That's kind of my thing. I'm a bit of an overdoer. And so in respect and with respect to the work and to us, the pieces of the somatic care that I would like to introduce to you, came through the whole process of this training, and we will end with a calm down of ways in which we can utilize the skin, the system, and I think that the most important way to step into this is a little education. So when we think about trauma, I've shared my story, and so often, well, not saying it's a competition, but my story tends to go on and on, right? Like there was this younger trauma and then another trauma, and then there's layered, so we would call this developmental trauma. So that's pretty intense because it hits in every spot, and I think that's why I really love this work, is that I can connect into a lot of different places with a lot of different people, and I feel grateful that I have found the teachers and I have found the journey that I needed to survive. So here, maybe you're coming to this training, someone suggested it, and you're like, well, I didn't have that major trauma. My father wasn't murdered, my mother didn't abandon us, my mother wasn't a drug addict, and there's another bit of the story that I'll share in the next chakra. So that's a lot. So maybe you're like, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I don't have this or that. Well, trauma, as we know more now, is it's a cultural condition in many ways as well. So I want you to just consider this, that if we get hit, if we get hit, there's trauma to the skin. So think about that. If we witness something, there's like trauma to what we've seen. Or, I think I've shared with you, I have had some significant friends with some real issues. There's trauma in relationship to someone else. So as grief is a human condition, as I've explained to you in the fourth chakra from Peter Levine, yes, but trauma can happen in different ways. So I would like you to just come with an open mind, open sixth chakra, and not that I would wish trauma on anybody ever, 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 so please know that. But even in thinking about your parents and that generational trauma and the ways in which maybe you operate, you might learn here, wow, I didn't realize that I have this or have that. And not to share too much of my children's stories, but even as I was describing with my daughter, she had a more challenging time trying to come into life. So one could say, there's a little bit of a birth trauma, her body holding so much. And then not to confuse that with, cesareans, right? There's a different type of jolting. We could go on and on here about what we might call a trauma, what we might not. So that's something here that we could discuss at another time. But here, I want you to just show up for yourself in self-compassionate care and consider, okay, well, trauma in whichever way, I want to learn about my nervous system. I want to learn about my patterns and really just have an opportunity to really enhance my relationships, okay? Ding, ding, we got that one. So here, and I will we'll take pictures so that you can see this a little bit easier. I consider a slideshow, but I really wanted to draw because I'm going to ask you to be doing some of this. So you shall see, we will be doing some artwork for 6th chakra. So, Ajna, clarity. 3rd eye chakra, clear seeing. Shadow, illusion. Often here, this is a story that Anadea shares, and I think it really, of course, she nails it. Mom, why is Dad sleeping? Mother to child. Dad's just tired, he's taking a nap. When Dad's really, really drunk and sleeping on the couch, and that happens all the time. Well, that child, right, who's actually not that young anymore, is like, senses that that's not a truth, but that truth fits the story in which fits the life that that individual wants to lead. You know, because the addiction and the addicted parent is a very challenging life. And my heart goes out to that child and to that suffering addict. So just start thinking about things like that. You know, I had shared with you before, like, oh, Natalie, what? Your dad died? No, I'm good. I was really young. Natalie, what? Your mom is not home? Yeah, but it was really hard when she was there, so I've got this great family I'm living with. See? Now, those fit, and I needed that. I needed that illusion. Thank you, illusion. But at some point, when that illusion keeps happening, and then the truth is just busting out, maybe it's through pustules on my skin, maybe psoriasis, maybe arthritis, maybe a chronic condition, maybe fibromyalgia, many, many things that can happen when we have inflammation everywhere because we're holding and our nervous system just can't take it anymore. We finally say, this coping mechanism, this shadow, is actually creating a new problem in our life. So that's what I want you to just start thinking about. So here, this is a face. This is my diagram. Now, my brother's this incredible artist, and so is my daughter. And I have art in a different way. I know I've described that to you. So I was trying to be really specific because what I want to just point to here is these are the eyes. The liver is right there, right here. This is where we talk about the 3rd eye coming all the way in between. So just come on here and just even take the middle finger as a nice pressure point. Do a little pressure point, see? I got you. Ajna, I'm coming in. And so when we look at this, right, so our system, our nervous system, it affects our skin. And so here, when we look at this diagnostic, from looking at this more of a Chinese philosophy and looking at more of a non-Western modality for holistic health, here the liver, we have the bladder, the small intestine, the heart right above the eyes. Interesting, right? And then the kidneys and the liver here, the way in which we try to release the toxins. And here, right here, I often think about this with acne when it's right here, stomach. Oh, we're holding. And then below the stomach, lungs, we have the heart. And here, the spleen, the heart on the lips. And then again here, the colon. And then here we have the kidneys and the bladder. And then when we look at this with hormones, often left, right, depending on what's going on in the female anatomy with the menstrual cycle, where the egg is dropping, often the pustules show up in this hormonal belt. So interesting, right? So just starting to notice, starting to see, starting to lift that veil. And so here, trauma has emotional and cognitive effects, but primarily it is a physiological process. Peter Levine, a really cool dude. That's me. I just really, really, really admire this gentleman. And so the work in which I'm about to share with you came from Peter Levine's discovery. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's when, I think it's on many nature shows, but you'll see that a cheetah is chasing the gazelle, and the gazelle finally gets caught. The cheetah catches the gazelle, and the gazelle like falls to its death. And that's going into dorsal. It just went into shutdown. And what happens is the cheetah's kind of like taken back, and it takes a little time to kind of pull it into its den. And what happens is the hyena comes from behind and knows right when the cheetah has no more energy because it had just used all of its sympathetic nervous system to run, get its prey, it like takes a minute to come back. And right then the hyena comes in and takes the gazelle. But as the hyena is coming in to take the gazelle was faking out because that was collapse, dorsal collapse. It finally came back online, was able to activate its sympathetic nervous system, and the gazelle freed itself and ran. Now, I will link, I will try to find that and link it so that you can see it, because my explanation is pretty comical. I'm sure someone's giggling here. I hope I will be. But it is magnificent. And so this amazing scientist was studying this. He was like, this is pretty wild. This is pretty wild. So when we look at our lower nervous system in relationship to animals, we have the same nervous system. You know, as we go up, there's only a few little shifts. I mean, huge ones. But so in that way, Dr. Levine started studying the nervous system. And I am fortunate to have studied with him. And Judith's beautiful class, when she came to 6th and 7th chakra, she did trauma. And I got really, really excited when I got introduced to this amazing concept. So Peter Levine then had this student, Stephen Porges. And Stephen looked to Dr. Levine as his mentor. And so this mentee, Stephen Porges, created the polyvagal theory, which I'm about to teach you. And then Deb Dana, who's a therapist, took this polyvagal theory and she made it like applicable to therapy and to a holistic healing modality in using the polyvagal theory in relationship to, I call it, slowing our roll. So welcome here, and I would like to also, I have this down here, I would like to also add that Bessel van der Kolk, he wrote The Body Keeps the Score. And so this somatic processing and this theories of like understanding body, mind, really started happening around the early 2000s. And so that was the time that I had decided not to go back and get my master's just yet at Smith and to have children stay home. And I started working in programs with children who had a lot of trauma. And so it was pretty fantastic and interesting, and I could get a little carried away. But on a side note, the DSM, which is a diagnostic tool that therapists use in relationship to insurance to be able to get paid and to help their clients get diagnosed and get what they need, if it is therapeutic or if it's pharmacological. And so in that process, when Bessel came out with this information, well, they had just published the DSM, so they were like, really looking at post-traumatic stress much more in relationship to war veterans. And I won't get too far off on a tangent, but it's interesting, right? Because as human beings and in a process of a society that needs to function, this work is so important, and I'm so grateful it's here now. But I find it quite fascinating that sometimes, you know, our application and the way in which we offer help kind of also gets hijacked or doesn't get out to who it needs to if the packaging isn't really going to work for that time. So that's just food for thought. That's like an illusion, another conversation that'll be in a different webinar. But thank you for letting me like say that whole bit, because there are a few of you that might really connect with that. So here we go. clarity, third eye. So now, when we take a look at this, and even right now, take a little snapshot, okay? There's the face. You'll be able to start looking, start noticing, like, oh, I tend to get pustules here, or this tends to happen. Just start looking. And then even in the ears, we do a lot of work in the ears. I taught you about hiatus psoriasis in my ears, but also when I'm using and doing different types of therapeutic modalities, ears hold a lot for reflexology and acupressure. And so when you're looking at your work here and seeing the kidneys, think about that. Think about all that your amazing system does. So now we're going to move to this next bit. Dynamic equilibrium. So here, I just want to explain to you a little bit about our nervous system. So we're looking at our autonomic nervous system, right? And so here, there are a few different ways in which we can learn this. And so I personally think that finding this diagram first might help. It's just my guess. So you'll see all these different colors because this is going to be a little assignment that you guys are going to try. Okay, I don't want to call it assignment or homework, play work. They just studied, and Dana says if you use the word play work, it's fun, so I've just told you, but consider it. So here, the body will reorganize when it feels safe. Stephen Porges. So interesting, right? We think about safety. So often when I'm talking about the shadows and thinking about the ways in which we develop safety, right? So that's the root, fear. So here, the autonomic nervous system. And so the way in which this branches out, I think I'm going to hold it here for you because I think that that will help. I think so. And so just really, you'll take a picture of this and I will send this, but here we go, just so you can see the ways that it branches. Because here we have the dorsal vagal, which I made red for kind of low energy, and we could even look at the root. Just bear with me. And then here, when we look at the sympathetic, gave it a little bit more of a yellow. And then we have the ventral, which is more blue, is more soft and connected. And so when you look at this, and you see this, I don't know if you're taking a picture of it, I'm going to bring it back here. We have the autonomic nervous system, right? And it just works, it just does its thing, right? We breathe, all of our systems are working. And here on the branches, we have the parasympathetic and we have the sympathetic. Off the parasympathetic, there's two branches. We have the ventral vagal and we have the dorsal vagal. And so when I gave that really fun description of the gazelle, the cheetah, and the hyena, okay? Here we go with this. We are running and enjoying and doing life, la 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 la, just like that gazelle was doing. And then threat comes. So the nervous system gets sent into action, and so we can either go sympathetic or parasympathetic. Dorsal vagal is shut down. That means the end is near. I'm done. I'm out, and we shut down. And that's what happened. And so in dorsal vagal, this response happened, and it takes a while, but getting pulled out, your system will come back online. So when we look at this, the ways in which this works, dorsal vagal is the immobilization. So looking at fold collapse. 500 million years ago, right? This is the system that that we were working with. That's a long time ago. So that's the first system, right? It's a very lower hierarchy of system. Then we moved up to mobilization, sympathetic nervous system, 400 million years ago, fight or flight. So when we're thinking about the story, our very lucky gazelle went to collapse, had enough time because the hyena came in and exhausted the cheetah, and so then our beautiful little gazelle had enough time to come back online and be able to get from immobilization to mobilization and hightailed out of there and survived. Amazing. Trickery and amazing. So now, the mobilization 400 million years ago, now we move up to what we have now, the mammalian connection, which is only 200 million years ago. Social engagement. And that's what you and I are in right now. We're in the ventral vagal. And so when you're in the ventral vagal, you can bring in the other parts of your nervous system in connection with. But it's when trauma comes in, there's been a break, something gets hijacked. Well, then dysregulation happens. So the body will reorganize when it feels safe. And so that's what we're really working on here in our self-compassionate care training program. It's all going to make sense pretty soon. So here, what I'd like to do is switch back to dynamic equilibrium. So dynamic equilibrium, we have the V, the S, and the D. So when I made my little tidbits here, it's ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. Let's not overthink this, okay? If you want to do more work, I will do more webinars. But here, just in connection to the chakras, the energy body, and just want to get comfortable, our nervous system, I wanted to make it easy peasy lemon squeezy, scientific, but within reason, so that you're like, oh, what do I have to think about now? Like, yeah, we're just starting to connect, right? We're noticing our ground, we're noticing our second chakra, we're feeling like the in the third, in the chest, maybe in the back, maybe in the throat. Well, now, clear vision. Well, let's start going back and thinking, what's going on? Why is that happening? This is very interesting. So, dynamic equilibrium, when the ventral, the sympathetic, and the dorsal, non-reactive actions, a state of balance between continuing processes. When our systems can all work together in this homeostasis and balance, well then, that's bliss. Maybe that's not always like, this is the greatest thing ever, but in our life experience, we have all of the feeling. We get to be in all the experiences. I'm here today sharing this. I just got some sad news from Emily, which I've shared with you. She's my first guardian angel. Sad news, put a little puppy down, right? Oh my God, we could all just take a second for her little pup. She was such a good mama to him. And now we're in relationship with that. It just makes me think right of my golden retriever, and then of my other two dogs we had to put, like, right? Are you with me? Let's all just take a second for little Pepper. Put our hands on our heart. And for anybody's pet. I have a real thing with animals. And with humans. I have a real thing. But you see, we're in grief, we're in sadness, we're in the heart, but we're in relationship too. We are in this together. So I have a smile on my face, but I'm not saying that I'm happy that Emily and her beautiful family just had to go through this, right? And Pepper's little partner in crime is home probably looking for his best friend, her best friend. It's not easy. But I can be in this place and not be overwhelmed. That's the part of like really starting to get good vagal tone, really working on titration and moving through this. So this whole training program, as you go through it, each time you're going to be like, Natalie, she's so tricky. She's a tricky little gal. I've learned from some awesome people, and I'm awesome. And I have really started to figure out how to read the room. And so there are different ways in which we've been working through already, you know, working and putting into your vagal break and moving you through and coming back up. And so this is just really incredible experience, and I'm just so fortunate to have this information to share with you. So here we go. I've used some colors for fun, but when we look at this, the dynamic equilibrium, that is a quoted statement from Dr. Levine, very cool dude. Ventral, So this is the face-heart connection. Now I've just showed you with my beautiful face that all of this, right, in our face, well, we have all of these nerves. And so when we're looking at the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, it's all connected to our face and our heart. So the face-heart connection. And so now we look at the sympathetic. Well, that supports breathing cycles, heart rhythms, and body temperature. All right, just listening. Then we come to dorsal. I don't want to say dorsal like, because I do go dorsal, but dorsal's really, really awesome. It's our first one. We gotta give it props and really appreciate it. It's healthy digestion. I've shared this earlier, really, I would say like a lot of my trauma got locked in like a variety of different issues and things, but eating disorder for myself, like really struggling with like nourishment and then releasing and like moving through that, and the ways in which it got locked. And so I look back and I think, oh, healthy digestion. Well, there was so much fear, and pull up from the root if you're looking at your lower sacral plexus and then below, right there by the perinatum, and we're thinking about the bottom of our spine and the ways that fear can hold us. Well, I'm always thinking when I do some deep work, my digestion is always really dysregulated. Okay, not always, less now, but has been in the past. I can say it, because when I can feel that now, I'm like, okay, and then I have tools. And so that's not a brain thing, and you're going to see that's a nervous system thing. But we can make new patterns. When I was, I think in my early 30s, I was at a brain gym class, and we discussed the ways in which neural pathways connecting to your brain get hijacked if you've had serious trauma and serious issues as a child. And we did a lot of different exercises, and I always sensed, back in the day, can we make new neurotransmitters? Can we refire? Can we not? Different experience, looking back 30 years ago. But I was always like, yes, I just really believe it. Like, we are this amazing system. So the same with the brain and the neurotransmitters. When we look at our neural pathways and the ways in which our energy body and our nervous system cooperate, we can, and we have, and we are creating new pathways. It's happening. You and me, right here. It's happening. So, the first step towards change is awareness. The second step is acceptance. That's by Nathan Brandon. Acceptance. That word, acceptance, surrender. Oh, they're words. They're real, like you could bite into those words, huh? Acceptance, awareness, and acceptance. Okay, well, here we go. So we have the left and the right brain, the hemispheres working together. We have balance, right? We can walk. Our vestibular system's working, we are balanced. When our ventral, our sympathetic, and our dorsal systems are cooperating, we have a cooperating body, we have well-being. So here we're coming into well-being, being well. You like it? I bet you do. I bet you do. So, when we're thinking about the ways in which we're connecting, I want to give you a little bit of this information. Neurophysiology. It's an interesting word. A branch of physiology and neuroscience that is concerned with the study of the functioning of the nervous system. Love that. I mean, I spent a lot of time studying this on the side, so I know that we're looking at this in the energy body, but really thinking about what holds our charge. So now we come to physiology, a science that deals with the ways that living things function. in any of their parts. Okay, so here we are with our parts. So we're looking at the neurophysiology and the physiology. Well, now we come to this really awesome word. And very much when I think about Stephen Porges and Peter Levine. And I think like with these cool like fellas hanging out and having these conversations, and I think, oh wow, like you're doing this, I'm doing this too. And like when we just really think about using our imagination, right? Albert Einstein, imagination, more important than intellect. Yeah, he said it, that guy. And so I want us to really just, we're just getting out the cobwebs, bringing in some new juice and information. So here, neuroception. I always think of proprioception and perception. Okay, so now we've got neuroception. Proprioception, which I learned from doing yoga, right? And so often athletes are very proprioceptic. They can do this. So they're very aware of where their body is in time and space. And so if you look at an individual who's been traumatized or who has experienced a lot of different challenging experiences throughout their life, sometimes they're clumsy, they struggle with their proprioception, but the more that you work with your being, the more that you can actually start finding more balance. So now we come to perception, what we're perceiving. And when we look at, or we are coming into sixth chakra, this is very much about using your intuition. And often individuals who have had significant trauma are very intuitive. Very intuitive. Similar to that of our beautiful fuzzy pets that we have in our house. Like my husband used to say, God, it's so amazing, honey. Gino like gets up and goes to the window. And you don't come home for 5 more minutes. And we used to live at the bottom of Mount Tom in East Hampton, Massachusetts. And I picture now my sweet Gigi in heaven. See, I think of Emily and her pups today. Gino passed away a few years ago. And I think when I came down the mountain, it was like, he just got some sense. When I turned down the road, this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful being who was so beautiful to me and all of the children of East Hampton, my gorgeous golden retriever, he sensed me. And I often think of myself and other traumatized individuals at any time in our life, but often I think of the younger individuals where we had to really hone in our perception and the way that we were being intuitive. Who's safe, who's not, is somebody drunk, is someone not drunk, what's gonna happen, where do I need to be? You know, really like almost being able to like sense what was going on down the street. Now, if you are someone who has experienced that, first of all, my heart is with you. But you also know exactly what I'm saying, right when I'm saying it. My legs just came right up as we're sitting here talking. You can't see them, but they just came right up. And so instead of being like, oh my gosh, Natalie, I say, yeah, me too. And I'm here. And you're here. We got this. It's another way. Here, we're going to titrate a little bit. There's the breath, right? That's our sympathetic. Slow it down. Instead of letting something get too hijacked. Oh yeah, I had that trauma when I was, no, slow it down. All our tools. Don't forget your tools. Don't forget your bits. So now coming back, neuroception. Detection without awareness describes the way the autonomic nervous system interfaces with the world. Detection without awareness. We're working on using awareness and acceptance. But when we have detection without awareness, well, that's the nervous system saying something's not safe. Danger, pay attention. Okay? So just like, don't overthink it, just hear what I'm saying. So that's neuroception. State and story work together in a persistent, if not interrupted, enduring loop. So, state and story work together in a persistent and, if not interrupted, in an enduring loop. So, this is the way. just kind of picture a loop. Maybe the loop is here. As I said, we have the idas and the pinas. This is more like yoga, but we have this energy system coming up and down, right? You're doing this, so you got it. And then stopping, right? Sixth chakra. And so this loop of, I shared with you, just started thinking about this, that I knew how to make a flamethrower, even though I don't know what sort of was, with Aquanet and a lighter. And I had a butter knife when I was 7. Okay, well, I don't know, my mother just taught me that. Well, think about state and story. Well, what would you think at 7? Are the streets safe? If you have to learn how to protect yourself, even though I was walking down, I lived in Baldwin, Long Island, and it was a lovely, lovely town. Well, my mother was teaching me something. Loop. I think we all know exactly what was going on there. She was trying to protect me. And I know my kids will say, oh yeah, remember when Mom told us never to get into a car with somebody and told us this story or this story, and they were pretty young when I was sharing those stories? Okay, I've apologized. And I also thought I was doing the right thing, really trying to protect my kids, keep them safe. My kids were hypervigilant. But of course, persistent loop. Here we go. State and story work together in a persistent loop, if not interrupted, an enduring loop. So when I was able to actually catch this, sitting my kids down, okay, they were in their teens at this stage, and say, I am so sorry. I really raised you in my trauma. No, you didn't, Mom. Yes, I did. And I did that because I love you. Slow it down. And I want you to know that I'm working on that, and that you had all of this fear, but you didn't have the exact story, and it didn't happen directly to you. So there was all this misinformation, all this illusion. And so being able to come into it, the kids are starting to learn, I'm starting to slow my roll. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but that shift that you feel right now, going through this training, I know you know that some things do happen instantly too. As Anadea taught me, we only have to go all the way down once. And I don't want anybody to do that alone. Reach out to me, I'm right here. But to think about how now we have to interrupt it. And that's why if you've done one-on-ones with me, you know in the middle of something really serious, I interrupt you. I apologize, I'm so sorry I'm interrupting. I interrupt. We have to catch the loop. And then we bring in an anchor, we bring in something positive, and we move back in. So let me just share a little bit more now. Beliefs, behaviors, and body responses, they're embedded in the autonomic nervous system. Story and state. You'll see more after. So the physiology and the psychology are interconnected. The physiology and the psychology are interconnected. So when we have the polyvagal theory, regulated and regulating resources support safety and connection. So it's about learning how to come in, feel our way, use our senses that we have, and build a bridge into a new way of being. Just take that. Just take a breath. A lot of information. You can just keep playing it over and over again. You have my cell, you have my email, you can FaceTime me, I'm right here. We will continue. It's all going to make sense. Now, the autonomic navigation. Trauma. This is trauma. Too much too soon. Too much for too long. Not enough for too long. See, that's when I know. Me too. And trauma. It's like, see my whole face? See the emotion response that I had? I mean, I'm not trying to cry on demand. You know, as an actress, I could. But I'm not. I just feel that. I feel that for myself. I feel that for the people I love. I feel that for all beings. I feel that for you. Too much too soon. Too much for too long. not enough for too long. I'm just going to take a second. And I'm going to, did you see? See my body? I'm collapsing. You're witnessing the collapse happening. Come back up. Remember I told you about humor? It's my resource. And I anchor it in. And we're going to discuss that. But there it is. It just happened so naturally for me. So that's why I really needed to write my notes, really be here, because this is so ingrained. And now that I've been able to move through a lot and bringing in the resources, I want to slow it down. And so I use humor. That's the beauty of the Irish. Love my Irish roots. And so, who's got their brush handy? Anybody? I'll wait. Go grab it. I could feel it. I feel right here. Let's take a second. We're going to do a chakra scan. 6th chakra. This is how we do a chakra scan. Let's do our breathing. You guys are like, you got your own breathing going on now. I have a client that tells me, I notice that I like to make it even. That's actually the way to do it. Even on each side of the in and the out. But often the 6 up really kind of can be more like 9 because that's actually more accessible often than not. Not saying for everybody, but for some. Now that we're all such in our sympathetic breathing together, professionals, we've got it covered. So I'm just gonna ask you to just do a little bit of body brushing. Let's just tell our system, I hear you. I can feel that it's softening already here. Because the out of the arms is part of the heart, you know? And the way in which we can get to the ventral vagus connection with the other is to reach out. Is to reach out, to pull in, to be with. That feels nice. So here we've learned a lot, haven't we? We've got the autonomic nervous system. Are you brushing? Did you go get your brush? I hope you did. Feels good. I needed it. The autonomic nervous system, right? We've got the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And then off of the parasympathetic, we have the dorsal vagal and the ventral vagal, which is the oldest. Ding, 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 dorsal, which is the newest, ding, 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 ventral, which is in the middle, ding, 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 sympathetic. You guys are brilliant. I knew it. I knew you are. I know you are. I know. That felt good. Woo! Come on, shake with me. I could hear Anadea. She'd be like, get up and move. You got to get your people moving. Okay, so that moved. This moves us. So here we are, and when I look at the end bits here, creating an autonomic demand that shapes the system away from connection towards protection. That's maybe what I was feeling when I needed to go and do a little body brushing. Creating an autonomic demand, the trauma, the autonomic navigation, it creates an autonomic demand that shapes the system away from connection towards protection. And then in a state of protection, survival is the only goal. That's the dorsal. We're built this way, survival, right? And so it's interesting because I was just going to think of Darwin and survival of the fittest. And so interestingly, Deb Dana says the fittest actually must be the most gentle. Because in order to be fit and well and in well-being is to be in connection with others. We're neurobiologically hardwired to connect. And so competing needs to survive and to be social, survival's the only goal. But in connection, we have healthy growth and restore. We have restore. We really can restore. And so in the way that we get to restoration is in connection with. So when we think about this regulation, the regulating and the regulating resources, I want you to start thinking about that before we start our next bit. What is a resource for you? Okay, so I just said I use humor. I think you guys have all figured out my resources, right? I tend to like regulate with doing my hair, cutting my hair, chopping my hair, playing with my hair. I've been putting it up, so I just stopped touching it. But interesting, right? Considering I didn't want anybody to touch my hair before because of the psoriasis, and now I'm like, and I'm like, oh, sometimes I can feel a little lesion comes up, and I think, okay, Nat, what's going on? What do you need? How's your diet? How's your activity? How's your social connection? Are you giving too much? Are you're asking for too little? Are you not asking for what you need? Connecting in resources, sleep, water, movement. And that's a big part of this program, you guys. 20 minutes of movement a day. Well, we've really moved our brain a lot today. And I'm going to mow the lawn later, so that'll be, and I did a little bit of weights. And maybe I don't need to like be running marathons, because maybe that's too much. But as we got up in the 5th chakra, guess what? I started doing some runs. I was like, whew, I gotta get some runs in. Not too much, just a little bit. So, what's your resource? Come in here. Come sit down and let me know. So, have you tried the body brushing? Have you tried the ball? And really like moving yourself. How's your music? How's connecting in with certain clothing? How about touch? When's the last time you like let someone touch you? I struggle with that. I mean, not as much now, but you know, I'm always like out, here. I'm like, oh, hey, did you rub my back? I have a knot. Can you do this? But my husband more now is like, okay, me too, you know. But super, super wonderful to like find a balance, and it can't always be that way. You know, relationships aren't always 100% in balance. Sometimes one has different needs. Sometimes someone's struggling, and then it shifts. And so it's like noticing that, and that's the resource I want you to connect with, is noticing what's your resource. What is a resource, Nat? Are you giving me a full explanation? Okay, so resources, ways in which we can take care of ourselves, ways in which we get what we need, ways in which we grow and learn, ways in which we connect in and feel safe. I'm going to tell you more. I just want you to be thinking. Okay, it's Education Day. Any questions? Text me. Let's take a second. Ajna, illumination. Close your eyes. Chakra scan. Can you see your ground? What's going on? Do you have feet there? Just come on in. Are there leaves there? Is it green? Is it dry? Is it wet? Come on, close your eyes, relax, I got you. You've got you. I've got you. Well, you get you. Come back in. What's the ground like? Maybe one word. And then come up, 2nd chakra. What's going on here? Can you feel? Does it feel like here, in your needs, in your emotion, in your water? Come up to the 3rd. Here you are. What's going on in the fire? Is it out, out, out? Is it in, in? What's going on? Now we're at the heart. Just notice the you in there. another breath because I can feel my whole body's pulling up. I can hear my dishwasher making all this noise. Love my home studio. Doing the dishes. Isn't it amazing technology? I'm doing the dishes, but I'm sitting here. My beautiful machine is working for me. And it actually saves water, just so you know. Which is awesome. Okay. Well, I guess my throat's pretty check because I'm doing a lot of talking. How's your throat? How's that little tiny space? What needs to come out? Are you listening? Let yourself. Maybe not. You'll know. Third eye. Oh my gosh, I feel it here myself. And then the crown. We're moving up between the third eye and the crown. The energy here is very connected. I can feel it. So we just did a little chakra scan. Sometimes it's just one word. I'll give you mine. My crown felt soft. Firm but soft. My second chakra felt a little bit of pain. But of course, I could even feel it right now. It's painful when you talk about trauma. And for me, that's okay. It'll probably always be painful. I had too much for too long, too little for too long, and not enough for too long. And it feels good to be able to recognize that and to know that even with all of that, I am still living incredible life with amazing people, beautiful husband, amazing kids, awesome friends, wonderful job, wonderful experience, even with significant trauma. I'm here, and I get to be all here, and I dig that about me, and I'm still learning and growing, and there's so much more. And to learn this about myself. What a gift. What a gift it is to be me. And so, I think I just gave you my scan of my 6th and 7th, because I can feel it. I can feel the lightness. I can feel the burning in my 3rd chakra of enduring. One must first be willing to burn before one can ignite others to endure. Now my heart is open, my throat is soft. In my 6th and 7th, it's expansive. So namaste to you, my friends. Come back to the classroom. Go take a little break. Do a little moving.